Welcome back, everyone. Well, we've done it. We're at the halfway mark. Feels pretty good, doesn't it? It's been quite a journey. Doesn't it seem silly to think about where you were like 3 months ago? Like negative thinking and drinking soda. Remember what a challenge it was to just like sit still? Well, now you're a champ at focusing your attention, and it's been a lot of work, and it's hard to imagine another 3 months of it. But if you consider how much you've changed over the past 3 months, imagine where you'll be in another 3. I mean, it's like limitless. So let's go ahead and move on right into the lesson today. It's about silence. It's a pretty beautiful thing. I know people who are so afraid of it, though, that they constantly have on background noise. They have the radio on, the TV on all day, and they're not really even hearing it. They just like the noise. This week I'm going to ask you to do something really crazy. I want you to relish in the silence. So for one entire week, turn off your TV, no radio, stop reading books, and absolutely no news. Put your phone away, don't look up Facebook, don't play those games, just be in the silence. It's so difficult, but so often we distract ourselves from our own thoughts by allowing someone else's creativity to interfere. Don't get me wrong, I love watching TV. Music gets me really pumped up in the morning, and I read a ton. If you've ever seen me sitting at a restaurant, I'm usually like eating with one hand and I've got my phone in the other. And the point isn't here to like shut out the world entirely. Feel free to ask people what's going on in the world. You find out all sorts of stuff. Like I found out Michael Jackson died by a client coming into my studio. People will tell you when the important things in the world happen. But do your work like you need to. If you need to get on the internet for work, if you need to check the stock market for work, go ahead and do that. But allow yourself to be in the silence as much as possible. So what's the point? Well, we are halfway through, and you've learned that no life purpose can be accomplished without the creative power of your own thoughts. Everyone has the power to think, and your thoughts are infinite, and your creative power is unlimited. Thoughts bring us closer to the things we truly desire. The only things that can curb our desires from manifesting are the emotions of fear, anxiety, and discouragement. Every time we experience these emotions, it's like taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. The only way to keep from getting stuck is to just keep moving forward. So to be really vigilant in your quest for success, you only have to follow 3 steps. 1, know the knowledge of the power of thought. We've been working on that really hard. 2, have the courage to dare. And 3, have the faith to keep moving forward. With these 3 tools, you can create the life you really want. Work, home, friends, environment, health, love, everything. You are never restricted by cost or materials. Remember that thought's creative, and with this power, you'll find all the resources that you need to accomplish your goals. Your big plan must be sharp, clear, and definite. Changing your goals will only result in scattered results or chaos. If you've ever felt like so much of what you want is so close just at your fingers and yet so far away, it's most likely because you've allowed fear to enter into the picture and changed your mind halfway through. So imagine if you were a painter and you started a great work and then you got scared and doubted it, it would influence the outcome. You changed the course so many times that the final painting would just be a complete mess of paint and half-finished pictures here and there. When Michelangelo took a giant piece of marble and started on the David, he had one thing in mind, and through the course of his work, he didn't waver, and the outcome is a powerful piece of art that's continued to inspire people for hundreds of years. But imagine if he let his fear get in the way. When you're indecisive, you don't only lose your power, you lose your time, valuable time, resources, and finances. For Michelangelo, it would have been like a gigantic piece of marble, and all that time invested. Your creative thought is only as powerful as your ability to stay focused on it. So, I live in Chicago, and this is a city that has a huge problem with gang violence. And the news is plastered every night with stories of kids being shot and, accidental shootings and all of that. In such a big city, there's a story every week on how like some building caught on fire and all these people who died and babies and cats, The news has become a fantastic source of like voyeurism into the world of violence and crime. Also on TV, we've got court dramas, stories of revenge, crime-solving dramas, all these things, they glorify murder and rape. And on the other end, I can watch sitcoms full of incredibly happy people with a handful of fantastic friends who live happily together for years, running into all kinds of shenanigans that always seem to turn out just right. Now, these shows have led us to question our own worlds. In reality, our friends come and go, and things don't always turn out the way you'd like, with cut and dry lessons at the end. These shows cloud my thoughts. They bring me fear, doubt, and worry. I wonder what I'm doing wrong, why I don't have that kind of life. Or, the scary ones, the violent shows, the crime-solving shows make me think, well, there must be somebody next door who's chopping somebody up because it's on TV every single night. It just brings into fear and doubt and worry into my head and into my existence. Worst of all of these shows, TV shows, they numb my ability to think creatively. Spending hours in front of the television is like death to your creative power. Now, listening to music, while not quite as obvious as television, can kind of do the same thing. We all have songs that remind us of something and can set our minds spinning into the past. And while sometimes I love this thought process and music can really lift me up, it also distracts me from allowing my mind to work really creatively. Books aren't much different. Each time I read a nonfiction book about my business, I'm bound to make changes based on worry, doubt, and fear. Sometimes the changes are necessary, but sometimes they create chaos in my world. Fiction books aren't really that much different than television. They allow us to escape into someone else's world and thoughts instead of relishing in our own present moment. So this week might seem drastic, but I assure you, you can pick up the news and the books and the radio and the television in a week. It's way too easy to get wrapped up in something that doesn't really deserve your time, though. So I find that I get most of my news from my clients and my friends, and I look at the headlines of the paper when I walk by the newsstand, the paper box. What I want you to do is take the time to figure out how much you rely on these things to distract you from your own self. In a week, you can decide which things to reintroduce back into your life. And I think you'll find that staying on track really isn't that difficult when you don't have all those distractions. The reasoning behind all of this comes from a law that's both simple and complex. It's the law of love. You know that the law of attraction states that your thoughts have the dynamic power to correlate with an object and bring it into the material world, but only if you really desire it with enough heart to unwaveringly keep your thoughts focused. So how much do you want it? That's the law of love. The law of love states that feelings give vitality to your thoughts. Feeling is desire. Desire is love. Thoughts combined with love are invincible. Now this seems metaphysical, and it's really not. Let's talk about science for a second. The universal mind is not only intelligence, it's like a substance, something we can't see, but we know it exists. This substance is the attractive force that you can feel when you put two magnets together and they click together. It's that attractive force, that's the substance. A free electron is bound by this force to find other electrons. Pulls them together to form atoms, and the atoms form together to create molecules, and molecules pull together to create matter. Now this is the same force that I'm talking about, it's just on a macro level. The law of love is the creative force behind every manifestation, not only of atoms, but of the entire world and the universe, everything that the imagination can form in any conception. As humans, we felt the law of love when we're attracted to another human being. You're drawn by an unseen force that seems ethereal in nature, but if you felt it, you know that it's real. And when the vibration is matched by the other person, you're able to create a bond between you that has the ability to create. Whether you're creating a friendship, a career, a relationship, or another human being. Now, the law of love is completely ruined by fear, anxiety, and indecision. So if you remember the first time you fell in love and you were like a teenager, like in your young 20s, and there's this like crazy euphoria and between you and this other person, and you just seemed like so locked together that separating, even just to like go to class or to go to work, was like physically painful. That's the law of love. That's that pull. Sometimes I wish I could still have that kind of naive love again, but like through my life experiences, I've learned, maybe don't fall so hard so fast. But like, why not? I mean, fear and anxiety and indecision are the things that take over. In every relationship I've ever had, when fear enters in, it weakens the magnetic pull. And the pull becomes less and less until it becomes a repelling force. This is the same with friendships, with projects, or even with your career. Fear causes chaos. Love attracts. If you can avoid fear, the chaos, or the repelling forces, then you can accept love. And I'm not really talking about romantic love. I'm talking about the attracting forces in your life. So turning off the media turns off the things that mindlessly cause fear, anxiety, and indecision. Being silent means that you can be more receptive to that magnetic pull. This is the point where supply meets demand. This is the most powerful energetic interaction in the universe, where the two come together. That pull is where supply and demand meet. Now, all laws of nature are unfailing. So like if a bridge falls, we don't say that gravity failed. And if a light burns out, we don't say electricity failed. The law of love is no different. So just like electrons attract to find their perfect atom, we're being pulled in the exact direction to complete our life's purpose. And if the law of love seems to be drawing you into chaos, it's a lack of knowledge, courage, and faith to keep moving forward. Nothing's created in the material world without work in the mental and spiritual world. By the simple process of controlling your thoughts, you can help create the events which will come into your life in the future. Educated desire is the most powerful means of bringing action to the law of love. You only need 3 things: knowledge of the power of thought, courage to dare, and faith to keep moving forward. Remember, your intention is the boss of your attention. The power comes in the silence. If you want wisdom, power, or success of any kind, you find it inside you, and then you can just watch it unfold. Now, being silent seems simple enough, but you'll find it's going to be a challenging and insightful week. Only in the absolute silence can you come into contact with your true self and learn to open yourself up to the persistent practice of concentration, which will lead to your own perfection. So turn off the TV, put away the book you're reading, unplug the radio, put your phone away, and give yourself that time to be silent. Now, last week, you saw how many people and events were drawn to you to help you complete your purpose. You're also being drawn to others to help them complete theirs. Now, the pattern is unending. The law of love isn't about romantic love. It's about the pulling together of masculine and feminine forces. And when I talk about these 2 forces, I'm not talking about men and women, but about the ideas of yin and yang. Remember that? One thing needs and the other gives. Yin is a receptive force, and yang is a take that force. So when the 2 come together, it's a supply and it's a demand, right? One thing needs, the other gives. The law of love says that the substance of attraction is the space where supply meets demand, right in here. That's where that force is. This is the most powerful connection between 2 things, and we're constantly being drawn to find that point of energetic conception. So the law of love is applicable in all aspects of your life, in the food you eat, in the city you live in, the people you interact with, and the job you keep. In our society, we tend to disrupt the law of love based on fears of rejection and insecurity, or even of hurting other people. So today we're going to look into what aspects of your life you're actually attracted to and what you're repelling from. So when you know this information, you can make better choices to spend your time in areas that are closer to the point where supply meets demand, and stay away from the areas of your life that are repelling. So for your guided journaling, what you're going to do this week is have a look at your calendar for the past month. Your calendar, your phone records, your activities. And you're basically going to list as many things as you can, people, places, and things that you interacted with in the past month. And then I want you to go through those 10 things, or however many you came up with, at least 10. And on each side in your journal, there's going to be a column, one with this frowny face and one with a smiley face. Now, if something you feel like you're being repelled from that person, place, or thing, then you're going to put a check in the frowny face part. And if you feel like you're being attracted to that, or it's something that guides you, then you're going to put that in your smiley face. If you're not sure, your solar plexus is a really good guide. So when you think of that person, place, or thing, does your solar plexus feel tight and cold? Then you're repelled. But does it feel warm and energetic? Then you're attracted, right? People who we're drawn towards are people that build us up. They make us into better people. So those are things that you're attracted to, something that's going to help you grow in your life. People that pull you down, or they're like energetic drains, those are going to be the ones that are repelling forces, all right? Once you have those listed out, I want you to take 2 of them on each column, like 2 people, 2 places, 2 events that you feel really attracted to, and see if you can figure out ways to incorporate them more into your life. And then take 2 things that you're really repelled from and see if you can start weaning those off. Now, the way this works, it's kind of funny. I mean, you can't exactly get rid of like your brother or your boss, but quitting a job seems like a really good idea. Like, that's not the point. The point is, if your boss makes you cringe, figure out a way that you can minimize your time with your boss. So like, if your boss goes to lunch at noon, then you go to lunch at 1 o'clock, and then that's 2 hours during the day that you won't be in interaction with your boss. If a certain friend seems to be like an energy drain, then you don't have to cut them out of your life completely, but instead of like when you think, I really want to go out for dinner or for coffee, don't call up that friend who drains you. Call up somebody who's on your attraction list. Now, this really simple exercise can change your life. I found that people that I didn't even realize were there to help me were getting neglected because of the people who I allowed to monopolize my time because I felt obligated to. Starting today, you can choose to surround yourself with people, places, and events that are leading you towards your ultimate goal. They'll help you on your path to success, health, and happiness. All right? And then for your meditation, we're really getting into like real meditation right now. And this week I want you to go to your same chair, your same room, at the same position, relax all your muscles and nerves, get completely comfortable, slow down your mind, allow yourself to be quiet. Let thoughts pass as they will and listen to them, but don't let them spin out of control. And realize that your ability to think is your ability to act on the universal mind. It's that space where yin and yang meet and bring your desires into manifestation. So try to find this space where your demand meets the supply in your own mind. That point of connection, right? Find that balance. Sometimes we can call this the one. This is the place where the duality of the mind, where your conscious and your subconscious meet together in one place. Silence your conscious mind and raise your subconscious mind to become one mind. Now, this is kind of abstract, and no doubt it'll be difficult at first. If you're having trouble finding it, though, just imagine that there's a magnetic pull between your solar plexus and your brain. Find the place where the 2 meet. This is the manifestation of the law of love in your body, and it's no surprise that it's right here in your heart center, right? So I think you're really going to like this meditation. It's a little bit more abstract. Take your time with it. If you feel like you want to do it for 5 minutes or you want to do it for half hour, it's up to you, as long as you feel comfortable sitting. But really allow yourself to be drawn into that feeling of attraction, that feeling of the law of love, okay? For your physical challenge this week, I want you to do all 16 stretches from memory and your 30-minute walks just like before, but instead of 4 days a week, I want you to up it to 7 days. Every single day, a 30-minute walk. Now, you should have lots of time if you're not reading the news or books or watching TV. And don't put in your headphones, no music. Just find that time to walk every day. It's really important that you start adding in some time for your physical fitness. So you've got a half hour of walking and you're doing 16 stretches. It's about an hour a day that you're giving to yourself for physical fitness. And we've gradually increased this time. This is really important, though, that you give yourself that time to do some sort of working out, okay? And for your diet challenge, this week, I'd like you to introduce yourself to fermented foods. Now, it's kind of gross to think about, but all fermented foods are full of bacteria that have partially digested the food already. With most foods, if you let them spoil, it makes them inedible. But the process of fermentation has been around for thousands of years, and through a careful process, foods can be allowed to break down and be stored in a way that makes for really healthy food, which keeps for a long time. Now, you've all eaten fermented foods. Cucumbers left in vinegar, they turn to pickles, right? Juice turns to wine, grains turn to beer. We even use the fermentation process to make leavened bread. Dairy turns to yogurt, kefir, and cheese. Cabbage turns to sauerkraut. We already have all of these fermented foods in our diet. There are a lot of benefits to eating fermented foods, but before we get to that, we have to talk a little bit about your digestive tract. Starting at your mouth, you have this long winding tunnel that accepts food, breaks it down, takes the nutrients it needs, and expels what it doesn't. Now, I'm going to blow your mind right now, but this tunnel is essentially outside of your body. It's a tunnel, like a tunnel under the ground. It's not above ground, but it's not rock either. So you can't really say that the inside of your digestive tract is in your body. It's actually outside of your body. I know, blows your mind, right? Inside this tunnel, you have something called a microbiome. It's a microscopic world of bacteria, some good and some not so good. I like to think of it as like there's Fraggle Rock in my body, and it's all those little green men in Fraggle Rock are working to to break down the food in my body. But it's actually like they live in that space. It is not, it's not actually inside of my body. It's a tunnel outside of my body. Does that make sense? A little strange. Okay. Inside this tunnel, you've got all these bugs, right? These bacteria. And like I said, some are good and some are bad. When food passes into your intestines, these organisms get to work breaking down your food so that you can absorb as many nutrients as possible. They are literally like little mine workers, and they're chiseling down the food, and they're pulling out nutrients and sending them through little tunnels in the intestines to be absorbed into the blood. When the system is working at its best, you feel healthier and your digestion is regular. When your little workers are depleted or out of balance, like there's more bad ones than good ones, then your body has to use enzymes to break down your food. Now, your enzymes are a valuable resource. Our bodies don't produce them, they just have a store of them, and when they're gone, they're gone. So when you can minimize your enzyme demand by keeping a steady supply of good bacteria in your gut, you actually can delay the aging process. So you keep this happy microbiome, it's this little bacterial world in your gut, by consuming probiotics and enzyme-rich foods through your diet. So in this day and age, we're constantly in the process of killing off these bacteria in our gut. You can do that by taking antibiotics, steroids, birth control pills, drinking chlorinated water, and even using antibacterial soap. When you kill off the good bacteria, you get an overgrowth of bad bacteria, one of which is called Candida, and it causes a ton of problems, from yeast infections to allergies to irritable bowel syndrome to leaky gut syndrome and fibromyalgia and even chronic fatigue. Many people with Candida overgrowth become so sick with no apparent cause that they're commonly called hypochondriacs. The best way to avoid feeling this way is to provide your body with healthy bacteria on a regular basis. So that's why doctors now suggest to eat yogurt when you take antibiotics. Yogurt's full of healthy bacteria that replenish the good bacteria killed off by your antibiotics. Your digestive problems, allergies, and any other ailments might be because of a bacterial imbalance in your intestines. So, enter fermented foods. By eating more fermented foods, you can not only help the growth of probiotics in your gut, you're consuming enzymes that help the digestion process without using your enzyme reserves, which, remember, are limited. So this week, I want you to try to eat fermented foods at least 3 times. Ideally, you would include some sort of fermented foods in your diet every single day. So here's some really simple ways you can add fermented foods to your diet. I think you'll be surprised at how easy it is. First, you can eat pickles. Put them on your sandwich. Have them as a snack. You can keep a jar of pickles in your refrigerator. Pickles are easy, right? Second, try a spoonful of sauerkraut just as a side dish. Now, sauerkraut can be kind of an acquired taste, but once you've had it a couple times, your body will probably like it. Salsa. Salsa's fermented. It totally is. Add it to your eggs, on a salad, or even you can eat it with tortilla chips. Salsa's a great option. Replace your multigrain bread if you're still eating gluten. Replace your multigrain bread with sourdough bread. Sourdough is a fermented process, and it's actually a little bit better for you. Multigrain bread can be a little bit corrosive on your intestines. Eat frozen yogurt or kefir instead of ice cream if you're eating dairy. And if you don't have a trouble with drinking, have a good beer or a glass of wine. I mean, you're welcome. It's awesome. It's fermented, and it really does help to feed your probiotic system. All right, give you some enzymes. It doesn't mean have a bottle. It just means have a little glass. All right. If you're feeling really adventurous, you can try Kombucha Tea, which is a fizzy fermented drink. It's made from a mushroom, this big giant mushroom, and it's carbonated. It's kind of delicious, and all sorts of fermented, right? It's got all the goodness of fermented foods. Or you could try Korean kimchi, which is a spicy fermented cabbage dish that's really popular in Korea. And that's actually a really good way to get fermented foods, kind of like Korean sauerkraut. And then for your big challenge, I know I just gave you a big challenge to eat 3 times fermented foods, but this is the big challenge. I want you to eat miso soup at least twice this week. Now, miso soup can be bought in freeze-dried packages, like a cup of soup where you just tear it off and pour it in with hot water and stir it up, or you can make it from scratch at home. Now, miso soup is, miso is fermented soybean paste. You cook that with water, some wakame seaweed, which you know is super awesome. You could throw in some tofu, some carrots, shiitake mushrooms, or a daikon root. Daikon's like a tubular root vegetable. It's white and it's really good for your liver. Miso soup is a staple of the Japanese culture and of the macrobiotic diet, which you know is like my favorite thing. Its health benefits are ridiculously good. One bowl of miso soup contains all the essential amino acids, makes it a complete protein. It stimulates the secretion of digestive fluids in your stomach, restores probiotics to your intestines. It aids in digestion and assimilation of other foods in the intestines. It's a great source of B vitamins, including B12. It strengthens the quality of your blood and lymph fluid, reduces the risk for many different types of cancers, detoxes metals from your body, and is high in antioxidants to protect against free radicals. All of that in a bowl of soup. I mean, it's kind of like a miracle in a bowl. So here's an easy recipe for miso soup. I eat it for breakfast, like totally for breakfast. It's one of my favorite ways to start the day. All the ingredients are either freeze-dried or can be kept for months in the refrigerator. You can buy miso paste in the refrigerated section at the grocery store. This easy breakfast, it totally can replace your cereal and your coffee in the morning. It's really filling and you feel very clean. So what you do is you take a strip of wakame, or if you have wakame flakes, you can use a half a teaspoon of wakame flakes, and 2 dried shiitake mushrooms. Put them in hot water and let them rehydrate. At the same time, boil 2 cups of water on the stove and add root vegetables like carrots or daikon or anything you want. Just throw it in there and let it boil until it's soft. And then you turn off the heat, drain your mushrooms and your seaweed and chop them up so they're kind of coarse, and then add them into your soup. The water and the carrots, right? And then make sure the burner's off. You don't want this to be hot. You stir in a tablespoon of miso paste of any variety, and it'll make it taste slightly salty. Stir it up and it'll be kind of like a gritty. It'll look gritty and like a broth. It's really, really good. So it should be a little salty, but you can add more miso if you feel like it's maybe not salty enough or you'd like a little bit more flavor. It's that simple, and it's a great, great way to start your day. You'll be surprised at how good you feel. So this week, eat 3 different types of fermented foods, and on 2 mornings at least have miso soup. Here are some things you'll notice when you start adding more fermented foods. You'll have more energy. You'll have less heartburn or stomach aches. You'll be more regular in your bowel movements. You'll have less allergy symptoms, and your immune system will just through the roof, right? So it's a fun week. I want you to enjoy it. Take your daily walks, turn off the TV, no media, hang out with amazing people, and have soup for breakfast. You're gonna feel fantastic. All right, so that's the end of our lesson today. I will let you guys log off if there's anybody who needs to go, but I'll keep it open for questions if anybody has any questions. Where can I get this miso paste? You actually can get it at most grocery stores that have an Asian section. It's usually, I find it at Whole Foods in the refrigerator section. It's kind of where they have, look for soy-based products, like where they sell like cubed tofu that you would pretend is bacon. Like look for that kind of stuff, and that's where you'd usually find it. You can also find it in the Asian section, in cubes, I think. But you should go for something that's refrigerated, and you should be able to find it in most grocery stores, definitely at Whole Foods, and I think you can even buy it online. The recipe is in the materials, of course. It's in the diet section at the very end, okay? It's awesome. Have you ever made your own miso soup, or have you had it at a Japanese restaurant? It's so good. Okay, you get it when you get sushi. I mean, that's basically what you're making. So I would say, if you've got time to cook in the morning, then go ahead and get miso paste that you can keep it in your refrigerator for a long, long time. Like it really, because it's fermented, it stays. It's like having sauerkraut or pickles or something. Like you can keep them for a long time. And when you make a miso soup, it maybe takes 5 or 10 minutes. It's not hard to make. It's probably about the same time it would take you to make coffee. But if you think that timing-wise it's going to be a little bit complicated for you, or the cleanup or anything like that is a little too much, you can buy miso soup in the Asian section dried in packets. And they usually come in packets of 3. They're just little, it looks like, those cup of soups that you just tear off and throw it in some water and you make soup. That's all it is. And everything's just like, little pieces of tofu and seaweed and miso that's just been dehydrated. And as soon as it hydrates back up again, it's fine. So that's a really good option. Okay, Michelle says, miso, I'm sorry, Teresa, she asked, will these dried packets have a huge amount of sodium? Now, miso in itself has a lot of sodium. So you definitely want to check that if you're watching your sodium. I would say that the dried packets probably have a little bit more than what you would make on your own, but this is going to be, miso is a higher sodium dish, right? It's full of seaweed, and miso paste also has some sodium in it too. So it will taste kind of salty, but like I said before, the benefits of it are so great that unless you're unless you're really watching your sodium, or you have to, you definitely have to keep your sodium levels down, I think you'd like it. She also says, I need it. It'll help with my iodine levels. Definitely. Yeah. It's not iodized salt, though. I mean, it's like salt from seaweed from the ocean. So you may want to look into that and see. But it will have a decent amount of sodium. So just keep an eye on that. All right. Michelle says, what was the first step? Know the knowledge of the power of thought. So you have to know the knowledge of the power of your thoughts. And that basically means that you have to believe that your thoughts really are that powerful, and that you can accomplish a lot through your thoughts. And it's pretty much what we've been doing up to this point, is like, can you, do you understand how powerful your thoughts are? Do you understand that your entire world revolves around the way that you think? That's kind of the first step, is really understanding that your thoughts are the most powerful thing. That like, I can decide how I want my life to be, who I want to be, what friends I want to be with, what job I want, everything. That all comes from the power of your thought. So that's the first step, the power of thought. The second step is to have the courage to dare. So say you're working on something, you have to first know that you have the power to do it. Second, you have to have the courage to actually do it, right? So that you can't have that courage if you have fear. And that's a lot of times why I try to stay away from the media when I'm working on something that's really important, because something as simple as the news, or there's a storm coming, or there was an earthquake somewhere. Like I can take this fear, like I can remember the images of the earthquake in Haiti, or the even plane crashes and things like that, like things that have been in the news recently, that fear could keep me from doing something else. Like that fear could definitely keep me from getting on a plane again, or going somewhere where earthquakes are prevalent, because I have those images in my head. Now, when you really want to be courageous, you want to get those kind of images out. You don't want to even give them a chance to come in. So it's better for me, like I found out about the Haiti earthquake on Facebook way back when that happened. It was a couple years ago. Now, I could have very easily gotten sucked into watching CNN and seeing all the buildings and all the people and the horrible carnage, and getting those images into my head. But it's enough for me just to know that it happened. I don't need to have those images in my head, right? I don't need to see that. I don't need to put myself in that situation. I mean, of course, I feel horrible for the people, and I am so sad that happened, but I don't need the mental images in my head, because those things create fear in my life, right? So you have to have the courage to dare. That's the second thing. And that's one of the big reasons why I'm like, get rid of this media stuff. Stop watching the news. I mean, the 5 o'clock news in Chicago is like the worst thing in the world. It's all about who shot who and who's dead now and what disease you're getting and how everybody's sick and there's not enough vaccines and there's this and that and whatever. And before you know it, it can really make you very anxious and fearful. So the courage to dare. So if you don't have those kind of things from the media, the outside world, it increases your courage for sure, because you can keep that fear out. And then you can rationally have your own fears, right? Work on those yourself. But you don't need somebody else's fears, you know, and the media tends to pull those up. And then the last thing is the faith to keep moving forward. So like I said before, you've got a big giant piece of marble and you're making a giant statue. I mean, Michelangelo, definitely, I've seen him. He has tons of slabs of marble where he only got halfway through and he abandoned them, right? There's plenty of them where it's like a half a figure and then he stopped. If you have the feeling that like, yeah, I'm doing something wrong, I gotta back it up, I gotta change this, I gotta move, and a lot of that comes from fear. It's not having that focused direction, like I really know exactly what I want and I know exactly where I'm going, then you start to have chaos. And so what you really need is the faith to know that you're on the path that you want to be on. And a lot of that comes from what we did last week with inductive reasoning and figuring out what it is, what you want the end part to look like so that you know where to go from now, right? So that knowing the end point is what's going to keep you moving forward, to have the faith to keep moving forward. Does that make sense? Cool. I mean, this 3 things are things that we've been talking about a lot through this course, but they're also, sometimes you just need to hear it. Like, look, you have to know that you could do anything. You can do anything you absolutely want if you're not afraid and if you have the perseverance to keep pushing forward. I mean, that's basically all it is. You can do anything you want if you have those 2 things, right? Oh, I guess 3 things. Do you guys have any other questions for today? Cool, you seem kind of quiet. So just give me we're good to go, and I will see you guys next week, unless you've got anything else hanging out. Any other questions? Good to go? Cool. Cool, cool. All right. I will see you guys next Thursday at noon. And also remember, if you give me a testimonial by the end of this week, which you should have plenty of time because you won't be watching The Bachelorette, right? I'm kidding. I'm totally going to watch The Bachelorette. No, I'm not. So if you have some time to sit down and write a testimonial out for me, I'm actually going to send out a survey. So keep looking for that. And if you send it to me by the end of the week, which would be Wednesday night, and as long as I have it by Thursday morning, then I'll go ahead and give you as a gift the PDF of the entire first 12 weeks in transcripts so that you can read them, which is awesome. If you want to keep reading, read that instead of fiction. You'll be back to fiction by then. And then also I'll put your name in my book as an acknowledgement, as a thank you. And like I said before with this, I really want you to be as honest as you can. Be really clear with me about the struggles that you've had with this course or the things that have been really great. And also, I want you to use your check-ins as kind of a, as a grade for me. So I'm going to ask you some things like, what number did you put in this in your weekly check-in in week 1, and how are you now? So I'm really interested to see, the progress that you guys have been making. It's really helpful for me, and it'll help me to figure out how to serve you better for the next half of this course, okay? So be looking for that, and I will see you guys next week, all right? Thank you. Talk to you next time.